everyone, it's Kim and welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. It is February 23rd and I'm getting ahead of a little bit of filming with my February wrap-up. I know there's a couple days left in this month, but I always feel like I didn't know how much I would need those extra couple days to finish everything I wanted to read. But while February is a short month, I have managed to read 7 books so far, and I'm still trying to finish 2 more. One is all about Wisconsin cheese, which will be covered in my Unwrapping My TBR blog, which you'll see later, probably in March. And the other book I am trying to finish is SIGH and Friends, which is the second book I'm reading in my James Beard Reading Challenge, which if you haven't heard about the James Beard Reading Challenge, I'll link it in the cards and down below. If you haven't heard about the James Beard Reading Project I'm doing, I am trying to read all of the James Beard award-winning books in the food writing category, starting with the 1990s, and SIGH and Friends is the second on that list. So let's get into the books I did read this month so far. The first 2 I have already covered in a mini weekly reading recap. I'll link that up and above. The first was an ARC from NetGalley, thank you NetGalley, and it was a graphic novel called Chef's Kiss by Jarrett Melendez. I'll put the picture right here. This book should now be available and on shelves, but it is about a recent college graduate who is struggling to find a job in the English literary world and ends up taking a job at a restaurant, and romance and adventure comes alive. The second book I read this month was Epicurean Delight, The Life and Times of James Beard. Now that is the first book in the James Beard Reading Challenge, and I have a whole vlog all about it. So the third and fourth books that I read in the month of February are After the Rain, Volume 4 and 5. This is a manga that I have been purchasing and reading after loving the show, and volumes 4 and 5 now finish the series with a total of 5 omnibus volumes. So I'm very sad to be leaving that world behind, but it was really a delight to read over the last couple of months. So staying in the realm of fiction, I did finish an anthology of short stories, Hungry Hearts, and this is 13 Tales of Food and Love. This is slated within the young adult genre of the world, but these are 13 different short stories all taking place in this neighborhood called Hungry Heart Road. And there's many different diversities, owned voices, and some that talk about family, some talk of spiritualism and the role of food. It was a real delight to listen to and also to read. Because I had 13 short stories, I did flip back and forth between the audiobook and reading the book physically. The other thing I really liked about Hungry Hearts is that there were definitely some stories I liked more than others, but there were so many different ethnicities and cultures talked about in the book. I really think anyone could find a story that they're going to love in that anthology, so much so that I would love to keep that book as part of maybe one of the options of a blind date with a book, which I guess it's really not a blind date if I'm telling you about it, but I really, really recommend that book. It also has come out now in a paperback cover. I'll put the picture here in purple, and I love both the hardcover and the soft cover version of the book. Really recommend that anthology. Another book that I read this month, I have already reviewed on my channel, which I'll put again in the cards and down below, is Sweet Bean Paste. This is a short translated work out of Japan, coming in just over 200 pages by Durian Sakigawa. And this is all about an owner of a dorayaki stand and his interactions with an old elderly woman, Tokue, and their budding friendship and how a tragic past brings that all crumbling down. This is definitely a book for someone who's looking for character growth, character development, much more than plot. And the final book that I've finished so far this month, so another book I finished this month is Shucked. This is by Erin Briers-Murray, and this is Life on a New England Oyster Farm. So Erin used to work in advertising and publishing and was very lifestyle magazine, did a lot of jet setting, got to try a lot of things, wore high heels like all the other girls in New York City, and just found she wasn't fulfilled and decided after her love of oysters that she would learn how to work on an oyster farm. She actually works on the oyster farm throughout the book for 2 years. And it talks about everything about learning to work on the oyster farm, learning to appreciate it, what it does to her marriage and to her friendships, and also to her own career trajectory. I really enjoyed this. I did listen to it also as an audiobook. I've been really into audiobooks lately as I look back over at my pile. So let me pause here. How did I consume media this month? So I physically read Epicurean Delight and After the Rain volumes 4 and 5. And then digital, I read Chef's Kiss. And then as audiobooks, I did switch back and forth an audiobook for Hungry Heart Road and for Shucked. And the final book I read this month so far is Hooked by Michael Moss. Now, this is my buddy read with Danny over at Spinelli Speaks. And that book I listened to on my trip to New York City and really pounded it out in a weekend. I actually have the physical book, but it's wrapped up on my wrapped TBR. And I wasn't gonna unwrap all those books to try and find it. So I know, but I got to listen to it on Scribd, so I didn't like pay for a second copy of the book. So I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to do a full review of Hooked. I don't think I am. Michael Moss's book about Hooked is about how we're hooked on the way we eat, but it's definitely a journey much more about just the adulteration of food and food processing, but it really breaks down different areas of, is food an addiction? Is food an addiction, or is the act of eating an addiction? And what is the spectrum of an eating addiction versus like the most extremes of eating disordered or disordered eating, and back and forth, and why for some people, someone like myself, why it's so much harder for me to lose weight than other people. And there's a lot of layers, and it's definitely a scientific look, definitely looking at also cultural impacts in the landscape on why we are hooked on eating and why it's difficult for other people. And I really resonated. I felt validated by the book is probably the best way to explain it, because I am, you know, I've talked about it on my channel. I'm an active power lifter. I work out 4 times a week, 4 hours a week. I also have been on diets and regimens most of my life. I also suffer from polycystic ovarian syndrome, which makes it very difficult to lose weight. And I've also always said that my genetics are really not in line for someone meant to lose weight. My father suffered from obesity problems, diabetes problems, heart problems, and etc. So I genetically have a body pre-designed not to lose weight. PCOS also makes it difficult to lose weight. And then when someone tells you to just stop eating or to go diet and exercise and the weight should fall off and it doesn't, what does that mean? And the book really goes through that. And I felt validated because I'm someone who is 32 and leads a pretty active lifestyle. And I'd like to say I take care of myself, but if you look at me from the lens of insurance, I'm considered a high-risk person because I am considered obese. Because of an out-of-date metric like the BMI index. I am on a medication that is supposed to help me lose weight because it's talking to the chemicals in my brain that turn on my satiation and satisfaction, like being appetite suppressant, or telling my brain it is enough, it is time to stop eating. I actually have to take a medicine that helps to talk to that part of my brain. And while in the past, I've been on the medication since November, and I know I'm getting a little bit personal in a wrap-up, so skip ahead if you want. But since November, I have put on 7 pounds of lean muscle mass. That is huge. That is a really good thing for my body. Muscle mass, muscle strength, good. But I've only lost 2 pounds of fat. If you did my body ratio, which I step on a scanner every month, it breaks me down into water, bones, fat, muscle, and organ stuff. So body recomposition is progress for me. That means there's more muscle on my body, there's less fat on my body. I'm also feeling better. I'm losing inches around my waist, around my stomach, around my thighs. But from an insurance perspective, insurance is only looking at a total number, which is net weight loss. And to get my medicine approved and covered by insurance, if I don't lose 4% of my body weight by May, I could potentially not be renewed for insurance coverage of this medication. And this is where the book is validating, because I'm not just this one final tonal number. There is so much going on in my body right now. I'm rewiring it to think a new way. I'm taking medicine that's changing my metabolism in a new way. And that all takes time. And for some people, the pounds do fly off. And for some, it's like me, it's slower. And for me, losing 4% of my body weight means I might need to drop 10 pounds by May. And that is not, sorry, my light just went out. Oh, well, that is not an easy ask for my body. There's a reason I had to get medication to begin with, because my body it's essentially not functioning the way it's meant to. And that's not to be dramatic. I don't think I'm going to suddenly keel over and die, but my body is pre-designed to not lose weight, and I am trying to rewire it. And it's a very frustrating process, especially for medications. It takes time to scale up to a full dose of medication. If you go from 0 to 100 on the medication I'm on, you're going to be puking. It's just, it can be very volatile on the stomach and on the whole digestive tract, meaning exiting your body could also be a volatile experience. We're not going to go into the details of that. I am just hitting full dose now, and it's going to be March. So I have 2 months on the full dose to maybe lose 4%. Obviously, this is why you have doctors and they advocate for you to explain to an insurance company. An insurance company gets a couple notes of guidance, and that's it. It's my doctor's job to advocate for me to keep me on this medication, make sure it's still covered by insurance. But going back to the book review, if you are someone who's interested in that world or feels that you have struggled, or why doesn't this work for me? What changes should I be making? I would give Michael Moss's book a look. I would read Hooked. I do think it's interesting. Now, the beginning of the book is a little slow because the first chapter is all about addiction and the addiction spectrum that, you're talking about smoking addictions, you're talking about alcohol addictions, and what it took even for the government to, for a long time, big cigarette companies fought that cigarettes didn't cause addiction because there were people who could smoke one and walk away. But other people because of the way our bodies are designed, they can't just take one cigarette and walk away. And that is the spark in the conversation around addiction not being so binary of yes and no, but a spectrum. And that spectrum is now being applied to food and the addiction to eating versus or what is the new spectrum of disordered eating. And he goes into throughout the book a lot of new, really groundbreaking research that's being done through a couple of really powerful universities in the United States, but also abroad as well. So if you're interested in the world, this is, I wouldn't say food writing. It kind of is. It's food writing intersection with food science. I really do recommend that you give Michael Moss's book a look. I'm sure, Danny, this was not probably the most fun bunny read for the both of us. So hopefully, last year we read about Nathan's hot dogs. This year we're learning about eating. Hopefully we pick another book in the future if it's a little bit more exciting. But that is the 7th book I've read this month. As I mentioned, I still have 2 books I'm still trying to finish before the end of the month. And I will be flying out to the UK on, if today's the 23rd, the 28th. So anything I read in the UK is going to count towards March. So I'm also trying to work, as I'm reading throughout each month, I am trying to get more and more books off my backlist. So I am happy to say Shucked came off my backlist of TBR, and so did Hungry Hearts, which is awesome. And Hooked, technically, while I did listen to it, is somewhere on my wrapped TBR in the other room. So that's 3 books off of my physical shelves that are now read, which is super exciting. And I have the 4th that I'm reading right now, which will be its own separate blog, the book about Wisconsin cheese. And that's pretty nice. I'm pretty excited with the pace. I'm on pace for a goal of reading 95 books this year. So I'm still on pace and I'm really, really excited about this. And nothing I read this year was a new 2022 release. Michael Moss's book is a 2021 release that I bought new actually won it last year, so I didn't even purchase that one. So I'm making some progress in trying to get my physical books down. It's still going to be a task I will probably never win per se, but I want to do a better job about it. So if you've made it this far in the video, why don't you leave me a hamburger emoji down in the comments below and let me know what are you excited to read next month and what was the favorite book you read in the month of February? And is February too short for you? Is it just me? I post new content every Tuesday and Saturday, but if you want to keep up to date on what I'm currently reading or learn more about the Read It and Eat Bookish Foodie gift boxes, all of my information is down in the description below, also with a link out to my Instagram and the Storygraph app as well. I hope you're well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.